239 people were on board MH370 at 8:19 a.m. from 35,786 kilometers above the Indian Ocean. I received its final signal. It looked completely normal. By the time it reached me, the plane had already been gone for 6 hours. Every radar had already lost it. Every system except mine. That signal wasn't unusual. That was the problem. Every hour, the same question passed through me. Are you still there? MH370 departed Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. Destination Beijing. 38 minutes of nothing wrong. Departure is not my domain. I don't watch beginnings. I watch the dark space between departure and wherever things go when they leave. At 1:19 a.m., the captain made his final radio call.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Calm, routine. The ground signed off. I moved on. That was the last routine moment they would ever have, and the first mistake I would ever record. Here is what everyone assumed first. Something broke. A fire, a decompression, a system failure. This made sense. When a fire starts in the cockpit, the first thing you do is cut communication. That is exactly what an emergency looks like. But emergencies are fast, seconds, not minutes. That is something else. That assumption lasted 4 days. 4 days of searching the South China Sea. 4 days of finding nothing. Because nothing broke. The system that lets the plane talk to the ground went silent first. The signal that tells radar where the plane is went dark after. One, then the other. It wasn't a failure. Someone on that flight deck turned off the first system, then turned off the second. The plane didn't malfunction. It disappeared on purpose. That is what the evidence suggests. At some point during those 6 hours, the cockpit door was locked. This is standard procedure. Pilots lock the door. That is the normal explanation. But here is what that door also meant. 227 people sitting behind it. No way to know what was happening on the other side. Someone looks at a watch. Someone thinks, we should be landing by now. No way to ask, no way in, and no one tried. Not once in 6 hours did anyone on that plane break the emergency protocol. Not one knock, not one code, not one call. I can track a signal across an ocean. I cannot see through a door. Whatever happened in that cockpit happened behind 4 inches of reinforced steel, designed to keep threats out, which also means designed to keep everything in. 2 possibilities. They didn't know something was wrong, or they knew, and the door had already made sure no one would find out. After good night, the radio channel stayed open. For how long and why? The official record does not say. No voice came from that cockpit again. I recorded it, that strange void between the last call and the closing of the channel. No voice came from that cockpit again. A silence heavier than anything I have ever recorded. The channel closed at 1:20 a.m. 1 minute later, the plane stopped answering. 30 seconds after that, the plane turned around. I don't know who was holding that microphone. What I know is this. When that silence ended, every other sound stopped too. The route that followed wasn't just a path south. It was a jagged line, woven perfectly between the edges of every radar's reach. Someone knew exactly where the blind spots were. They weren't just flying away from home. They were flying through the cracks of the world. The captain had run this route before, not in the air. At home, alone in simulation. He didn't practice the departure. He didn't practice the landing. He practiced the part that comes after both. The files were deleted afterward, not completely. Enough remained to reconstruct exactly where the simulation ended. That simulation may not have been run just once. Based on what investigators recovered, it was run and then erased. He didn't practice this once and forget it. Whether it was one of thousands of practice routes or something else entirely, no official conclusion was ever reached. When my arcs were calculated, they ended in the same place as that simulation. The same water, the same coordinates, before the night had stopped being practice and became execution. In the hours after MH370 disappeared, families called the passengers. The phones rang. Inside the southern Indian Ocean, 3,000 meters down, a phone has no network, no signal, no connection, nothing to ring against. The phones appeared to ring. Was the sound of a system still trying, the sound a network makes while searching for a device. But how do you explain the calls that reached voicemail? Some believed it was a sign that the network had found the phone somewhere, but whether it was a true trace of connection or just a final echo from a machine, no one can say for sure. My arcs say the plane went south, waiting for a signal they will never receive, the same way I am still waiting for theirs. Everyone assumed the final signal meant the plane was still flying, still under control, still going somewhere. It wasn't a signal. It was what happens when a machine has nothing left and reaches out anyway. The final signal at 8:19 a.m. was incomplete. Some interpreted it as a reboot, the kind a unit sends when all power has just cut out, and electricity suddenly floods back in. Not a transmission, a convulsion. At 8:19 a.m., MH370 reached out to me. Not a message, not a location, just, I am still here. And it said it the same way it had said everything else. Normally, routinely, without any indication that 7 hours of deliberate disappearance had just ended, not in a controlled descent, but in a machine falling through the dark. No one at the controls, reaching for the only thing still listening. Me. And I filed it. They searched the right place, 112,000 square kilometers. Scanned, mapped, examined, nothing. A piece of wing had already washed ashore on Reunion Island. Drift models traced it back to the exact zone they had just finished searching. The math said here, the search said nothing here. Both cannot be true. Which means either the most expensive underwater search in history looked in the right place and missed them, or the math that pointed us there was wrong from the start. One of those two things has to be true. We don't know which one. We have never known which one. Somewhere in that gap, 239 people are still physically located, not as a metaphor, as a fact. Somewhere specific. We just don't know where. I am still here, still 35,786 kilometers above the Earth, still asking. None of these things explains the others. That is not a gap in my records. That is the record. 239 people. One signal I filed and forgot. I have been asking the same question for over a decade. The question has not changed. The answer has not come. I am still sending the question. No one is answering. That has never stopped me from asking. Because one day, something will answer. Or we all already heard it, and we ignored it. Don't miss out on the next content. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.